the objective is you're going to go ahead and create an alloy using a copper penny. So that's what you guys are going to be doing during class. Now you should have an evaporating dish at your lab station. Whether or not you have a large one or a small one is going to determine what increments or what amounts of chemicals that you guys are going to add. So as we go along, I'll say, if you have this size, just add this many. If you have this size, add this much. Okay. So evaporating dishes, in your drawer number 1 is where you're going to have the scoopula. Okay. Tweezers, these also should be in drawer number 1. Okay. So tweezers, drawer number 1. Ring stand should be out, but if it's been taken off, you'll find that in drawer number 4. And so this is the ring stand, or this is the ring stand, and then this is the ring clamp. Now, a clay triangle. If by chance you have the large evaporating dish, you won't need the clay triangle because you can actually just set the large evaporating dish, bless you, right there. Okay, but if by chance you have the smaller evaporating dish, you don't want to risk, because I've seen some students where they're a little smaller and they try to balance it there. This will fall through. This runs right around 10 bucks. This one's a little bit more, runs for around 12 bucks. So we don't want these broken because they cost money. So that's what you use the clay triangle for, and you'll set that there on your ring clamp, and then you'll place the evaporating dish there, and that again keeps it from falling through. Okay. And as far as a glass stirring rod, I didn't bring one in here, I'll just use my tweezers, but the glass stirring rod will be in drawer number 1. Zinc metal, that'll be in these little vials. Those should be at your station. There'll be 1 per group table, so if I'm standing here and there's another group over there, you guys will share your zinc. So one bottle per lab table. Microburner. These are going to vary depending on what station you have. Some of you guys are going to have large ones like this. Some will have short ones like this. Now you guys will have to use common sense when it comes to, like if I have a short one like this, I don't want my evaporating dish this high. I'll have to actually loosen this up and lower it down if I have a short burner. This being a larger burner, see, I'll have to raise it up. And in the end, our goal is to have the sodium hydroxide mixture at a simmer. Now those of you who know how to cook, you'll have no problem with that because you'll know what I mean by simmer. But those of you who don't pay attention when you cook and the water boils over and goes everywhere, those are the people who I need to make sure pay attention to this because it's going to have a high concentration, hot sodium hydroxide mixture in there, and when it splatters on your skin, it will burn. Okay, not only will it burn, but later on you're going to start being itchy like this. And then finally, a 25 milliliter graduated cylinder. I'm not going to worry about the graduated cylinder. I'm just going to show you how to do it with the deionized water in the bottle. And the reason is because since you guys have different size bowls, that amount's going to vary. So what I'll tell you is when it comes to filling up your evaporating dishes, fill them about half full, if not just a little bit more. Can you tell me why you would think, why would I want to not fill that up too tall or too high? Louder, please. So it doesn't boil over, exactly. Because if you have a sodium hydroxide mixture in here, kind of think about it like if you're cooking bacon at your house. It's going to splatter and you're going to have like bacon grease everywhere at your house. Well, this will be a sodium hydroxide mixture that will splatter everywhere. And when I say everywhere, you're part of everywhere, so it will splatter on you also. And again, if it gets on your skin, it's going to be irritable. Now, what I also want to point out to you guys is if by chance you do get it on your skin, over by this sink, over near your teacher's door, near the deionized water faucet, which is the one with the white handle, there'll be a bottle of vinegar. And so if by chance you get some, there'll be a towel there. Get the towel wet with vinegar. Vinegar's not going to hurt you. And then rub it on your skin. And I know you'll stink a little, smell like a pickle, but it will neutralize the sodium hydroxide, so the burn will go away and it won't itch. If you ignore it, you're going to be itching all day. And I don't know if you guys have ever rolled in the grass, in the evening, and you got like those, itchy bugs on you. That's kind of how it's going to feel. Okay, so you want to put the vinegar on there, not ignore it. Okay, so that'll be by the door, and then I have it here just in case I spill any. Okay, so let's look at our procedure. Okay, first it says obtain about 10 pellets of sodium hydroxide. Notice the word there, about. This is not a rocket science lab, so about 10 pellets just means that. If you go a little bit over, that's fine. If you go a little under, later on you're going to find if you do multiple pennies, you'll need to add more. But if you're only doing 1 or 2 pennies, a little under is fine. But if you guys want to make lots of silver pennies or lots of gold pennies and you got them stacked up, you guys can get an assembly line going to where one person's cooking, the other person's rinsing, and you guys can make a whole bunch of these. If that's the case, you're going to end up needing a little more zinc down the road or a little bit more sodium hydroxide in there. Okay? So, anyhow, we're going to add about 10. Now, this is sodium hydroxide in here. Okay, do not pick these up with your fingers. Okay, do not pick them up with your fingers. If you do, rinse your fingers off and again use the vinegar. It will feel slippery because it's a base. Hopefully you guys learned that for the STAR test. Bases feel slippery. Okay, now, and if you pick your teeth later on, you'll know right away because bases also taste bitter. Okay, it's not going to kill you. It's not super poisonous, but if you were to put one of these on your tongue, it would burn your tongue. So again, they're not Tic Tacs. Don't handle them with your fingers unless you absolutely have to. So my point is, and I've seen students do this. Don't go like this, put them in your hands, and walk like this back to your desk. Don't do that. What you're going to do, and the sodium hydroxide will be kept at the front, up near the whiteboard in the lab. You'll take your evaporating dish. Simply grab this. If you're afraid to do this, you can also use the lid. Just tap some in there. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly 10. In this case, I probably got 20 or 25 in there, so what I do is I just tap a little bit of those in there. A little bit more. Okay, and I know you guys can't see it, but there's about 10 in there. Now, whatever's left over, if there's someone else in line waiting for them, they can go ahead and use those and tap them in there. But whoever's done with this, whoever used it last, should tap the remaining ones in there, and then screw the cap tight. Okay, it's important you screw the cap tight because this is deliquescent. Okay, if you know what deliquescent means, okay, it means will absorb water. Okay, and so if you just left them on the counter, they'll gradually become more and more mushy. Best example or description I could give to you guys about that would be, have you ever seen an old Jolly Rancher? Okay, how do old Jolly Ranchers get?
Sticky.
Kind of mushy and really sticky, right?
Yes.
These also absorb water just like a Jolly Rancher, except they'll become like a liquid or a mush. So anyhow, we'll set that there.
You have to do the crucible.
And now, the directions say add about 25 milliliters of deionized water. Now again, depending on which one you have, just about half full. Half full is what you want to go for. And so I'm just going to pour about half full in there. Okay. Again, don't overfill it, because if you overfill it, you're going to go ahead and have this boil over, or when it starts to simmer, those little bubbles will spray little bubbles on you, and then you'll start to itch later. Now there are aprons in there if you want aprons, if you're worried about your clothes, but as long as you're careful, you should not have a problem. Okay, and so now we're going to go ahead and heat this up to a slow boil. Now this is where skill comes in. If you're a cook, you want to take over this part. If you've never cooked, you want to push this off on your lab partner. And if you're ambitious, you can go ahead and just pay attention. And ooh, that did not feel good, but we'll find out. Okay, screw it down. Spark it up. There we go. That's not very bright though.
Exactly.
Not as good as it gets. Okay, let's try this one then.
Just stand next to him.
Okay, still on. That better be better than that. Okay.
Oh, well then we're reminding you.
This will be fine, but you're going to have a lot better gas pressure inside the lab, just so you guys know. You want to bring the shiniest pennies that you can. Okay, the shiniest pennies. Okay, if you bring and I'll do an ugly penny too. If you do it with an ugly penny, your finish is going to come out as nice as the finish that's currently on the penny. So you want to make sure that you have a very shiny penny. Doesn't matter what year it is. No, not really. Just as long as it's nice and shiny, that way you're going to plate the metal on there nice and crisp. Okay, but because it is so low, I'm going to lower this to right about there. Okay, we good? Okay, all right. So what I'm doing now is I'm heating this up, and I'm going to heat it to a low boil or a simmer. Okay, now I know the directions here say after it boils, then go ahead and add a tipful of zinc granules, but I'm going to go ahead and change the directions and just say go ahead and add, and if you want to use the scupula looks like this, and a tipful is not very big. You can do it like this and tap it on there. That is fine. If you want, because these vials are so small and convenient, you can actually just tap it right in there directly. Before, we didn't use these vials, we'd actually use a big giant reagent jar. And so that's why the directions will say use the scupula tip. But you just tap a little bit in there. You will see the zinc settle at the bottom. It's not going to completely dissolve. Some of it will dissolve, but not all of it will completely dissolve. And right now, we're just going to wait for it to boil. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky. If you walk away and you start talking to someone else, that can go ahead and cause a problem because it may boil like that. And once it boils over, this sodium hydroxide, if it hits the flame, it produces sodium oxide gas. Okay, and the problem with sodium oxide gas is when you breathe it, you're going to cough a lot. And everyone in the neighborhood of where you're working is also going to cough. So please make sure it does not boil over, because if it boils over, it's going to produce sodium oxide gas. Okay, all right. The other thing I want to warn you guys about is make sure this never boils dry or close to dry. Okay, see? Did you see how fast that boiled right there? Just like that. And so I was there, I was quick, I moved my burner away. Now I'll bring it back, and now I'm going to adjust my flame just a little bit lower so that way it's at a slow simmer. And if you guys you film that, you will see the zinc granules start to bounce up and down, with the little bubbles. Okay, that is right where you want it to be. While it's boiling like that, the zinc is dissolving into the sodium hydroxide solution, and you guys are getting a saturated zinc ion solution. Okay, so anyhow, that right there is a nice little boil, and we're ready to go. So it says polish a fairly new copper penny and drop it into the evaporating dish. Using the tweezers, move the penny around in the zinc for about 1 minute, turning frequently. Okay, now again, remember, the shinier the penny, the better. The uglier the penny, the worse. And so we're going to do one of each. You can do about 5 of these in there at once if you're ambitious. For the first time, just do 1 or 2. As you get comfortable working with this, you can do as many as you want. Some of you guys are going to, again, line them up, and you're going to make a whole bunch of them. Okay, so setting it in there, setting it in there. Okay, and if you guys can get a shot of that. Okay, so you're cooking the pennies in with the zinc and sodium hydroxide, and again, we want to make sure it does not boil dry and does not boil over. Okay, I'm going to turn this up a little bit, and again, this is cooking skills, is because you have to learn how to adjust your flame to the boil that you want. Too high boils over, too low doesn't cook well. Okay, any of you who've made spaghetti will know what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, we wait, and the first pennies always take the longest. I'm not really sure why, but they always take the longest. As you get this hot and it's going well, the future pennies go much faster. So we stir it around, and this one is not done, but I'm going to show it to my camera crew here. Okay. 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 So that was the ugly one. And so the pretty one should be, and that's, okay, now what you guys see happening here, see how it tilts? Be careful, and again, this is why you want to keep it slow. You want to make sure that doesn't tip over. Actually, there's the ugly one. That one's real bad. Okay. So there's the ugly one. So we're going to let those cook for a little bit longer to make them come out a little better. I'm going to turn my flame up just a bit. And I want to talk to you again about letting it boil dry. If you're doing many, many pennies and it starts to boil dry, make sure you guys add water as you go along. Now, I don't recommend unscrewing the top on this since it's full. And these water bottles are kind of weird because you have to turn these ones over. But add water as you go. Why would I not want to add? Why would I not want to let it boil dry and then add water? What might that do? Okay, bubble, it will do that. It'll go, and it'll bubble up, and then it'll get that on you. But I don't know if I've mentioned any of these, but these are made of porcelain, which is kind of like glass. And what happens to hot glass when you get it cold? It breaks, it cracks. And so if this cracks, all that sodium hydroxide is going to splatter everywhere. It can splatter on you, and again, it's a mess to clean up, plus over time it will burn your skin if you don't take care of it. So make sure you always keep plenty of water in there. Okay, make sure you always keep plenty of water. Don't let it boil dry, but don't let it boil over. Okay, let's go ahead and see how our progress is. That's the ugly one. And That one's okay, so I'm just a little bit longer. Okay. I'm going to cough here. And again, you don't want to breathe the fumes too much, so that's why you want to keep it at a low boil. I'm going to move this spot here in just a sec because I'm going to have to rinse them off. Okay. Okay, now we are up to step 4. Remove the silver-colored penny and rinse in water. Notice how the rinse in water is written boldly and underlined. If you forget this part and you stick it in the flame, what's going to happen is that sodium hydroxide will react with the metals, and it's going to go ahead and cause it to corrode, and you're going to have a really ugly penny. Okay, so that's why you have to rinse it off. The other reason is if you decide to keep it silver and you leave the sodium hydroxide on there, the sodium hydroxide will react with the zinc metal, and zinc metal is what you're plating on there. Okay, so anyhow, the zinc metal will then go ahead and redissolve and gradually come off because of the sodium hydroxide. Now that one looks nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do, except for that piece of zinc there. Okay, what I'm doing now with my tweezers, so let me show you that. Okay, if your tweezers are in too much, grab them, bend them outward like this, so that way when you pick the penny up, you're picking it up like either a picture or a compact disc. You want to grab it by the sides. Okay, and again, this is to keep the finish nice. Now I'm rinsing it off, and you just need regular old tap water. It does not have to be deionized water. Your fingers will feel slippery. Okay, so by the time you're leaving and you're done for the day, you need to rinse your hands off with a vinegar rag in order to make sure that you neutralize the base. There's sink clog too. So I'll stop before it overflows. Okay. All right. So this here is an example of a zinc-coated penny. Okay. And I'm going to pass that around. You've seen one, I know. Here, see, you don't want to touch it. There you go. Yeah, whatever. Okay. And then, in the meantime, you can go ahead and take more pennies and stick more pennies in there. And make sure that this is level. And you can continue to make more. Now I'm gonna bring or pass around the ugly penny that I put in there. This was a brown one. And again, make sure you rinse it off. And you want to make sure it's not slippery at all. Okay? You want to make sure that it's not slippery. Now this penny you're going to notice is noticeably uglier. And that's because it had all that copper oxide corrosion on there. So the more pure your copper coating is, or the shinier your copper coating is, the better your final finish will be. So, if you just want a silver penny, that would be where you finish off. And again, make sure you rinse it so that it's not slippery. Now, I put another one in here just a second ago. Let's see if it's done already. Because again, they go really fast after you get the solution going. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, that one also came out well. So, rinse it off. Also, rinse the tips of your tweezers off. Okay, and the reason is because we're going to heat this one up in the flame to make it gold. And if I have sodium hydroxide on the tips of my tweezers, that sodium hydroxide will then get on the edges of the penny, and it will cause it to react, and it's going to mess up the finish. So again, make sure it's not slippery at all, and you rinse it off well. And this one also came out excellent, very nice and shiny. So you'll take your burner, remove it from underneath the evaporating dish, and it says in a cool flame. So we are up to grasp the edge of your penny with the tweezers and pass it over a cool flame while continually turning the penny. Do this until the penny turns gold color and stop. Further heating will ruin the new finish. Allow it to cool and repeat with another penny if desired. Okay, so if you're rinsing it off with tap water, you do risk the chance of getting water spots on your penny. So you want to dry it off so that that calcium that's in the water doesn't leave residue on your finish. Okay, and so now dry off the tips of my tweezers. Again, holding it like it's a compact disc. Okay, I want to be able to have the flame be able to have contact with the metal portions. And now you're just going to notice I'm moving it and I'm flipping it over. I'm trying to get the heat. I got to take off these goggles. I shouldn't have wore yellow ones for this. Okay, and I'm heating it, and I'm looking for, when it starts to turn, a nice color gold. Okay, if I keep heating it, it will turn an ugly colored gold, kind of like a nickel arcade token. Now that's
Give
turning.
up?
Ooh, do I want to keep it that way? No, I need to put some more zinc in there. Well, kind of turning gold now. Gonna turn gold.
How are we gonna put it all
That's pretty
together?
close. Or do I want to do more zinc? There we go. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely different. See?
What's the reaction that's happening?
Okay, as far as the reaction that's happening, what you are doing is you're combining copper metal and zinc metal together, which forms an alloy. An alloy is a mixture of two metals. Okay, so notice the silver penny with the zinc coating was just plain silver. The copper penny is the copper color. Well, when you mix the two colors together, you get a color in between those two colors, which is this gold color. So I'm going to go ahead and pass these around so you can compare them. Now, here's something else for safety, and this does happen. If your partner drops the penny, don't be dumb and pick it up. Okay, so many students get burned. Just make sure it cools down first, tap it lightly, and then after that, it's fine. Now this one's still a little warm, so I'll hold it for a second. And then, this is what the original penny looked like, this is what the new gold penny looks like.
Do they still have the same value?
As far as I know, yeah, as far as I know, I've spent them. I think people who find them or get them usually keep them, but depending on how thick you make the zinc coating, will determine how long that coating will last. Think of the zinc coating as more like a paint job. Okay, if you paint a car with a cheap paint job, the paint will wear off. If you paint a car with a nice, good paint job, the paint will last longer. So, how clean it is, and how well it is
No, I said
what you
you
want to do.
hold this.
And as far as I know, I'm done.